Hey everyone, back again, this time with another movie review. And this time it's for My Hero Academia, Two Heroes, the movie based on the hit manga and anime that has been, well, a hit for the last year or so. And, well, a bit of a background. For those who don't know much about it, My Hero Academia is a superhero anime manga that is pretty much like, well, how should I say? It's a shonen show. You got your superpower beings with the heroes and the protagonist who wants to go and be the best like no one ever was, and all that. And the plot is basically, for those who don't know about it, is about a kid named Izuku Midoriya, who's born in a world where 80% of the population is born with powers, or quirks as they're called in it. And he was born quirkless and did not have a power, and he was very desperate for it. And eventually, he meets his favorite all-time hero, All Might, who's basically that world's equivalent to Superman, who's probably one of the most charismatic and fun characters that I've probably seen in an anime in a long time. And, given the recent superhero craze as of late, especially with shows like One Punch Man, and I personally would argue that My Hero Academia is better than One Punch Man. It was only natural that this show would eventually get a movie, like Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh, and DBZ, and all the others before them. And so it came as no surprise as to that would happen. And only question now is it good or is it run of the mill? And personally, I frankly enjoyed it. Frankly, given the pedigree of the anime, it had no reason to be anything but good. And after the bomb, that was a huge load of disappointment and broken promises. That was the Predator. Yeah, I needed something to wash the bad taste of that out of my mouth. And for the most part, this movie's a good time. It pretty much is light spoilers, of course, but the plot of the movie is All Might is invited to go to a place called Island, where a lot of superhero research is done, and he decides to take Midoriya with him. And of course, hijinks ensue, and other characters, not all of them, but a good amount of Class 1A, the fellow students of Midoriya's fellow students, end up coming along for the ride. And they eventually, they meet All Might's partner when he was in America. I guess it's pretty obvious to assume that All Might based his entire move set and repertoire from Texas Smash, Detroit Smash, and all that in honor of the United States. After all, this was where the superhero, the classic modern day superhero tropes first came from, as far as I know, anyway. And he meets his friend David Shield, and Midoriya meets his daughter Melissa Shield, who, like him, is also born quirkless, but decided to go on to the support role of learning to be a scientist to help out heroes. Eventually, by the middle of the movie, if not roughly the start of the third act, a villain and his gang comes in, locks up an entire science building where everyone was supposed to be partying that night, and it essentially boils down to being Die Hard in anime form with superheroes. Not that that's a bad thing. And let me get the positives out of the way first. And yeah, so as far as anime movies are concerned, especially ones based on shows, I personally liked it. It's actually I wouldn't say it's way up there in quality, but it pretty much matches the overall art, design, and aesthetics of the show. If anything, you could barely distinguish it from the anime into this, and you could pretty much fit it in timeline-wise, right in smack in the middle of season 3, where before all the students go to camp. And of course, it has a few flashbacks in the beginning to acquaint those who are either new to the franchise or those who would like a bit of a refresher. And the animation in this, like in the actual TV show itself, very flawless, although there are some moments where they do this, where Studio Bones did this. I can't remember if they ever did it in the actual show because it's been a while, but there were the occasional moments where they would do distance shots and the character models would look kind of plain, like the detail was not right. Oh, but overall, as far as the action and overall animation style is concerned, it's very much on point with the show, and also it's pretty much a fan lover's dream, a fanboy and fangirl's movie for the franchise. Hell, last night when I saw it, everyone was laughing and hollering and smiling, just overall having a good time, and that's pretty much where this movie shines the most. It is a movie meant to appeal to the My Hero fandom, and it does so wonderfully. And there are references thrown around here, both to fans of the old show as well as due to fans of the show, as well as a few other things that 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 may I guess you could say reference other things. Like, you know how in the show in the manga, My Hero Academia kind of throws around references to classic science fiction here and there, like the name of the cities, like Camino Ward and even Tatooine, I think, Star Wars. There's one reference in the movie that really had me bust out laughing, as well as everyone in the entire theater, and it involves a hero coming in and basically, if you know me well enough, and the things I'm huge fans of, let's just say that there's a reference to a certain 150-foot tall nuclear G-Man that I think you should all be familiar with. And considering the fact that Toho distributes My Hero Academia, I think the reference is pretty obvious. And it gave me a big shit-eating grin, that's for sure. So, as far as the plot's concerned, it's honest. It's harmless. It's not offensive, nor is it really do anything new. It's pretty standard, actually. But that's where the charm of this movie is pretty much in the overall fun of it all. Seeing Midoriya, Melissa, and even some of the other characters like Bakugo and Todoroki and Uraraka, Momo, and all the others getting through this diehard like hijinks of going up a building, trying to rescue Melissa's dad, who's of course, ends up getting involved in the whole thing, and taking on eventually the big bad guy at the top of the level, where we have probably one of the best fights in the whole series. I personally think that the All Might versus All for One fight in the middle of Season 3 is my personal favorite, but this one goes right up there with it. As for the negatives, however, well, there's not many, thankfully, but I would say the biggest one is the villain himself. Now, this is something that a lot of anime movies, especially ones that are spun off from Shonen franchises like One Piece and Bleach and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the others, they always, almost all the time, suck at villains because they're pretty much written to be a one-note filler villain to take place, to pretty much pad the film out and give the characters something to do. There are exceptions to this. I would say I think probably one that comes to mind is the main bad guy from Bleach Diamond Dust Rebellion. But other than him, that's pretty much the majority of them are placeholders and don't really do much of anything. They don't really have much of a character. And although this new character who's the villain in this movie, does have a very awesome fight at the end. He's he's possibly the first anime movie villain I've ever seen that goes throughout the movie without actually being named at any point. They don't ever say his name in the movie. Like throughout the film, I had the words I pretty much gave my own name. It came up with my own name to give him, Scraphead, because that's what he looks like. He has like a bunch of metal and straps and shit covering his face, and he can also manipulate, building material and matter like he's Magneto or something. And that's what's his real name? I got my computer right here. What's his name? Wolfram. 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 What kind of a name is Wolfram? They not only don't even say his name, they give him a name that doesn't sound like something that would matches with what he does and what he is. Freaking Scraphead or Scrap. I guess Scraphead, which I came up with, is what I'm gonna call him now because the writers forgot to give him the name throughout the entire movie. And really, the only other negative I have with it is, other than some of those distance shots I mentioned, the movie, even though it's very fun, it feels like an extended My Hero episode. It does not really come across as anything great, like truly spectacular or separate. Like I do appreciate that that it can be fit somewhere in the canon of season 3, but other than that, you can pretty much skip over it and not really bother it. But if you're a My Hero fan like I am and others, you'll likely like this movie a lot. I most certainly did, and if you're a fan too, I recommend it. But if you're going into this thing expecting something on the level of say Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side Dimensions, you're probably going to be disappointed because this was not, in my opinion, up to that level of quality. If anything, it felt more like an OVA episode, or at least an extended hour and a half mid-season finale or something to that extent with this movie. That especially became apparent when freaking flashbacks of all things actually happened in the beginning of the movie, which, as far as I know, is something that rarely ever happens. So, even though I personally thought the villain was extremely weak, other than an awesome final battle, and that the overall production is pretty much literally based on the TV show's budget as feeling like an extended episode for the show itself, I still think it's an enjoyable ride, especially if you're a fan of the series, like I said. And again, if you have really nothing to do on a weekend, or you're just a fan, or you're like me and you want to watch the bad taste of a very, very bad movie that let you down earlier, I think this is pretty much a good way to go. If you're a new fan of My Hero Academia and you're catching up with the show, I think it'll suit you fine. If you're an old fan like me, it probably won't surprise you much, especially since if you're caught up already, you know how everything is at this point. So I can't call it a whole disappointment. If anything, I knew for the most part what I was getting into, and from what I got, I really enjoyed it. And it does, and considering how easy it fits in season 3, I wonder if we'll ever see, David Shield or even Melissa Shield again. I could easily see Melissa being like an assistant to Midoriya at one point, maybe somewhere in another season or somewhere down the plot. I don't know. I honestly don't know how long My Hero Academia plans to stretch, because the pacing of the show is like probably the most well organized I've seen in an anime in a long time. It blows the pacing of One Punch Man and Naruto out of the water. And I mean that in a good way. Because honestly, there's been shows where I just can't take the slow pacing anymore, and My Hero Academia to me has really nailed it in that perspective. And of course, the movie again one. And as for the movie's pacing, again, pretty decent. Flashbacks aside, and you'll have your 1 hour and 30 minutes worth of fun with it. And that's pretty much what the movie is at its core. Just a fun fanboy, fangirl romp. And that's pretty much what it succeeds at for the most part. And overall, if you're a fan and you have nothing to do, I say go out and watch it. Give it the support it deserves if you're into it, and hell, keep a good eye for a lot of those references, especially a certain one that I think y'all probably got a hint of from what I've said. So yeah, that'll do it for this second movie review for the channel, and I'll see y'all later. Like, share, subscribe, and like. Oh wait, I already said that. I always said like. I can never get it right. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And I'll be back later with another review, and eventually, once October starts, I'll get back to the gaming again, and we'll see what happens from there. So, peace out, y'all. Plus Ultra and everything else that All Might and the characters say. Peace out, y'all.